Okay, so we're not in the hangar anymore.
They're not in the.
Well, I'm sorry I couldn't join y'all. I have a wife in the middle of her third trimester. Otherwise, I'd love to be there. Um, Mark Raggio couldn't join us today. He's not feeling that well. Um, I can't see that well, but should I be controlling the PowerPoint or
Meg, do you have a PowerPoint on your computer?
I do? Shall I share it?
Yes, sir. I'm going to go ahead and make you a host,
Okay.
and then you'll have the ability to share your screen and toggle through it.
Okay. Yeah. Mark Raggio was supposed to be presenting today. He couldn't be here today, but I will sub in. Let me see here. Share screen and 1 second. Okay. Give me 1 second. Hank, are you on the call?
Yes, I am.
Ah, good to hear from you, Hank. Haven't heard from you in a while.
Yeah.
Give me 1 second here. Get this up. Can everybody see the PowerPoint that is on the screen?
Yes.
Okay. I'm not going to go through too much of the EAS portion of this because I rarely get a lot of questions about it. But before I say that, I will say that our team here at DOT sits in the U.S. Department of Transportation under the Office of the Undersecretary for Policy within the Office of Aviation Analysis and International Affairs, specifically domestic, just so you know where we are. But historically, I haven't gotten a lot of questions about EAS, but if anybody has any questions, I would like to open it up now. Okay. I see someone I recognize.
Would you mind going to the presentation mode so we can see it? It's kind of small.
Okay, hold on. Okay, hold on. Let's see. You. What are you seeing right now? You're seeing just my face?
No, we're just seeing that if you just click on presentation down lower right next to the size, hover over next, oh, one to the right, one over.
One over.
More.
Right
One
here.
more. One more over. There you go. Right there. Click
All
on
right.
that.
You see it?
Oh.
Are you seeing it?
Go to slideshow.
Hold on 1 second. This might help. How's that?
Okay. Before I saw you, the room, and now the screen. That was smaller before. Good.
That's perfect.
Okay, good. So I'm gonna if anybody has any questions for EAS, I will take them now. Otherwise, I will move through to the mail rates. Okay. Let's see here. Sorry. Okay. I've already said that we exist here at the DOT. I'm going to pass EAS unless anybody has any questions. And get right into Inter-Alaska Surface Mail rates. I know we've all been in a lot of communication about the Bush mail rate order and the mainline mail rate order, which are late to be issued. Does anybody have any questions about the DOT and how we are addressing rates for Alaska air carriers and the USPS? I can barely see, I'm sorry. Okay, so a lot of you know that we set the rates for bypass rates between the USPS and Bush carriers and mainline carriers. We do it on an annual basis, and a lot of you have been waiting for that annual show cause order to be coming out, and it will be coming out soon. Other than that, we have been working on a new streamlined process to get it out earlier, which will probably go into effect sometime this year so that you can all plan better for your cash flow issues. I'm just going to go through the slide here. The mainline order is being currently worked on for the data ending March 31st, 2023. And we expect that to be released probably in the next couple months. I'm sorry, excuse me. I'm trying to find, I don't have a list on the left here. The Bush order is also going through the approval process right now. And we're hoping for that to be released shortly. I know there's been some issues with that. But other than that, I have no updates from sort of the standard presentation we make. If anyone has any other questions, that's all I have.
Hank, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. And this is something that's probably the elephant in the room. But of course, last year, a show cause order was proposed, which significantly reduced wheelplane rates and slightly reduced seaplane rates. And this was contrary to the experience cost as shown in the F2s about costs going up. And since then, it's gone up even further. So the Alaska delegation asked the secretary to take a look at this. There has been no news since then about what's going on. You're saying that perhaps an order is going to be coming out soon, but the carriers have not had a mail rate increase despite increasing costs since 2021. And in fact, the fuel surcharge, or the fuel, not surcharge, but the fuel adjustment was stopped, haven't been made for 3 quarters now. And during that period, there was a significant surge in fuel prices. Now, some have come down a little bit since, but in my view, the carriers have been significantly undercompensated for their carriage of mail, and it makes it very, very difficult for them to get stuff delivered if, in fact, the mail rates are not compensating them. So what is the status of the delegation's letter and the secretary's response to it, and what's being done?
Well, I think definitely that the delegation's letter opened eyes for us here at the department and made it more apparent to just sort of Mark and I that work on this and communicate with a lot of you regularly. Hank, I will ask you, like, are you concerned about the terminal rates or the fuel rates?
Well, we primarily looked at the line haul rates, including the fuel charges. And
by we, who do you mean by we?
Oh, I was engaged by Bering Air and Ryanair to take a look at the costs, F2 costs in relation to the mail rates. There is another issue, and you're very open about how you handle this, but it hasn't always been that way. And when Kevin Adams had it, all of his work papers, all of his data were shown. We could go from A to Z and figure out how the mail rates came out. Since his passing, we haven't seen that. And in fact, here, let me do this so you can see what I look like. Anyway, so since his passing, we haven't seen that same level of transparency and openness. And in fact, we did request the data for the previous order in 2022 or in 2023. And what we got was just some summary stuff. And there were significant errors. I mean, even there were technical errors, there were printing errors. And the issue is, it's difficult to understand if even the Rural Service Improvement Act and the standards that were set back in 2004 are being followed, because we simply cannot go from A to Z. We see some stuff along the way in a final, and then we're given 10 days to respond to it.
Okay, I understand that. We have been trying to make strides to be more transparent, but here's one thing that'll maybe encapsulate it for you to understand is that what you're seeing is a reverse engineer from data to make way for display purposes. Okay, so we have been trying to display data in a way that's transparent, that can leave exposure to errors, and that's why we do the show cause order. You know, we want to show everything, but it can be manual, and we're trying to fix that. All that being said, if you would like to extend the show cause period, you have every right to, as an air carrier. I don't know if you're an official agent of that air carrier, but you can, and we will do that.
Well, 3 years ago, an order came out and it was very opaque. We requested a 30-day extension to be able to go back in and find out what it was. And then we were granted a 4-day extension instead. And the extension was actually published after the extension had expired. So the posting date of the order was after the termination of the extension period. So I have been unhappy with essentially any, and I know this is not with you because you and I have worked together on other issues and essential air service issues, but we don't seem to be getting the data in a manner that we can use and understand and double check. You know, that's what science is. And then secondly, the response period, even we do have the ability, but as I say, and the last time we tried this, carriers have just sort of given up on asking for anything. And it wasn't until a significant rate reduction was proposed that carriers got up in arms. I mean, Grant filed a huge filing on that and threw a lot of stuff out there. So
I guess the questions and the grievances need to be more targeted, because again, we are not out there. So if you know, if there's more outreach to us to ask specific questions, it would be a lot easier. I mean, I'm like you've said, I've been candid. So like, if you can ask me specific questions, I'm happy to answer them. There's full transparency. So it's just hard to do if we don't have specific inquiries.
no, well, in fact, in the petition for reconsideration, Bering and Ryan, as well as two seaplane carriers, Alaska Seaplanes and TAC-1, specified what the problems were. And in fact, there was illegible numbers in one of the orders, and there were stuff that was just missing. I mean, the last
Sorry, it's late here in the office. The lights.
the last 10 lines of the reports were just gone. And we specified them and said, we would like to have the data for this. So I mean, that was going back to that petition for reconsideration. Those are the specific questions. Why are we not seeing complete data? Why are we seeing asterisks instead of numbers? And then again, why are we not seeing the work papers in the style that Kevin Adams did? And I understand what you're saying about reverse engineering, but why can't we do it forward instead? Why can't we just simply say, here are the basic numbers that we have, the T100s, the F2s, and then work them through from there to the end, rather than go back, as I spent hundreds of hours trying to do it 3 years ago and couldn't come close. So I guess that's the transparency issue to me. And I know it's very, very general, but the order.
I know you're speaking in regards to Bush, and I don't want to speak for Mark, but honestly, I think we could provide explanations for whatever you're looking for. And yes, to be honest, there have been errors. You're right.
Well, thank you.
If we can, addressing errors and looking at what they affect and how they're affected and specifically where they come from helps us in corrective action. So, Hank, I understand what you're saying. And again, I can't speak for Mark. We're working on it. I don't know the specifics of the Bush order, but we are working on it. And I think we're going to move to something a little bit more agile in the future shortly.
Well, that would be good. It was a big process, and I represented through the consolidated carriers a number of operators back in 2002 to 2006 when things were hammered out. And it was a system designed by geniuses to be run by geniuses. And then Kevin died. So
right, we also want to avoid a whole new show cause order to just do the process all over again, because as you know, if we wanted to change what's displayed and how we do this, this would go through a whole new proceeding. Is that, so that's very sort of onerous.
Well, one of the recommendations that Bering and Grant and Taquan and Alaska Seaplanes made was, let's take a look at this and see if there's a way to make it more accurate or simple. But in the meantime, how about using the Alaska CPI to update the 2021 order and then look at the fuel cost based on the F2 and then go from there, because the carriers have been underpaid for at least 18 months now.
Well,
and
Hank, here's the
it's
thing.
hurting
You might
them
want
all.
to be careful with that, because sometimes the CPI will underpay even further. We've talked to Grant about it. So it is an option. We talked with Grant. He's sitting up front right now.
Yeah, I'll just speak up real quick because I don't want Hank to speak for us. So we did go back to Washington, D.C. I think Dan may have informed the rest of the that we did go back and spend time with them, and we've done all the calculations on our own. Rob actually manually did all the calculations, pulled down all the data, so we understand how they ended up where they ended up, and what we were satisfied with is that they were going back to redo the calculations, relook at all the numbers. They're doing it they're being very methodic about it. And so we're actually generally okay with that fact that we don't have the answer to the fall, 2023 show cause order. We're okay being patient and waiting for them to work through their process. See when the new, I don't know what you call it, is it a corrective order? Whatever, when the new order comes out, then it's going to have the rate, which would be the rate that we would have had in September. It'll be different than what was actually in there. In our estimation, it'll be higher.
And you did a wonderful job of explaining to us about cash flow planning. And,
yeah,
that was something that was kind of new to us, honestly,
And who am I listening to there at the convention?
This is Gabe Comcop, president of Grand Aviation. And so
okay.
we'll work, and then they've committed to all of us, as you've heard them present before, or in this presentation, that they're going to look to make the process a little bit more efficient on their end and actually issue the rate orders more quickly if we can.
quickly,
Uh,
and this year, and Mark and I are gonna work on this, I did this for Mainline, was to sort of offer up inputs before the show cause, just to make sure everyone's on the same page for planning purposes. Because I
Yeah.
think, Gabe, I think the whole thing that you guys sort of expressed to us was planning, and I'm very empathetic towards that.
Mhm.
At the end of the day, yes, we are an unbiased party, as Mark would say, but also I work for the federal government and I want cargo to move smoothly to Alaska. So whatever makes it easier, if we can like sort of work together on inputs, cost inputs and things like that will help. Um, and planning, as a person that came from a finance background, I understand that you want to be able to plan for your, capital planning and cash flow and so forth. So we are working on it, Hank, and I'm not ignoring you, but I am
Mhm.
saying that we we are, now that the Alaska delegation has become aware of it, we are sensitive to it, and we've always been sensitive to it. But I guess to the point where for us it was more of a timing thing, is what we believed, but now it appears to be more of a planning issue.
Okay. Well, Venk, you've always had a great reputation for working with us and transparency. And every time I've ever had a question for you, you've been right there. I appreciate that very much. So I am looking forward to whatever comes out. But the carriers have been hurting for 18 months.
Well, how would you feel if the thing is that well, are you able to do you know what would happen if we release the order and how that rate would look if we issued it today?
I know how it would have looked when the petition for reconsideration, because Bering Air and Ryanair did the work and they came in and said, here's what the rate is. And if we applied the Alaskan CPI to this in the interim, while we figure out what's going on with the main rate, yeah, it would have gone up 9%. Now,
Okay, well, just to be
the
totally
cost,
practical, if we're not we are the federal government, so that we can't shift the legislation to move to a CPI
I
just like.
understand that.
Now, what would your fix be if you had a recommendation?
Well, I think that Jim Rowe and Lee Ryan had a great suggestion, or mostly Jim Rowe, that as an interim step, the CPI could be used. I think the process could be simplified greatly. It was designed, there were all sorts of weightings. There was trying to be high level of accuracy. As I say, it was a system designed by geniuses to be run by geniuses. And
We're
then,
using the same system that Kevin Adams used.
but well, I don't know, we're not seeing the same level of transparency in the data that came out, because Kevin would pretty much show everything that he had, and it was very easy to go through. And I would do that, and my clients would call and say, "What do you think?" And I said, "He's done it right." The transparency isn't there for the last
Well,
several years.
I would love to have you send me what Kevin sent you, and I could probably recreate that for you if that's what the solution is.
Okay,
But the data is the data, right? The data is only the cost inputs that the air carriers are giving us.
right. No, I appreciate that. And there was a very specific technique set up. But when we see the carriers calling in and saying, my costs have gone up 15% in the last year, or have gone up 9% in the last year, but the DOT is proposing to reduce the rates by 15%. I mean, you saw the outraged emails that came in from the carriers, and then you saw the stuff that came in formal filings.
And you understand the timing issue, and you understand the reporting issue.
Yeah, no, I think the carriers are reporting accurately. I
But
think
not
we have to
timely at all
assume that.
times.
Yeah, we have to assume that. Jennifer and Cecilia do a great job, but there is this gap, and we will find out, when the stuff comes out. And I hope that when you do come out with something, you give us at least 30 days to respond, because this is a very hot issue.
Yeah, I mean, part of the comment period shortening is just to help the air carriers to get this thing moving, and I don't know if we're totally opposed to having a longer comment period. I will ask Gabe though, to comment because they came in with Rob and Dan and are there major changes that you feel like systemic changes that need to be made?
After sitting down and talking with you guys, I think we're comfortable waiting for the order to come out and looking at the data from there.
And would you like a longer comment period?
What was the one?
Yeah, I think we would, Vink, because one of the things when we met is Mark couldn't give us details of what changes you guys were making and what
Yeah.
we would see. He just gave very
Yeah.
general terms. So we calmed down at that point because you were gonna provide us that data. So if you provide all that data, we're gonna need time to look at it.
The other
Yes.
suggestion, or the other thing that you actually brought up in the meeting that may work for us, I don't know if it will or not, but you kind of have I don't know if you call it not a pre-bed, that would, if you had a, before the order came out, you sit down with the 121 carriers, is that right?
I do it with the mainline carriers. Mark hasn't done it as yet, and you're not on my mainline order, so
Yeah,
we're gonna probably institute that and say like, just do a little precursor way ahead of time to say like, hey, is everything in order here in terms of your cost inputs? I think that would help a lot. I think we've already talked about doing that. Our main thing now is like going forward with automation to eliminate errors, but I think in my mind, policy wise, is like, you know, unofficially, if we can reach out to you guys and say, hey, does this look okay? Does this look like what you're, operating on the 619 or whatever, like, and give you like a lead time to plan. I think that's great. I think we're all on board with that. So I've started it with the mainline air carriers, and I think Mark is going to start it with the Bush carriers. So
yeah.
yeah, hopefully
that's
that'll
good.
help for planning. Like I honestly, it was great to have you guys in to hear about the cash flow planning. It's really makes sense. You'd rather have something more predictable than beneficial to some degree. Obviously, you want more money, you want it to be profitable, but being predictable is very good. So yeah, we can work on that.
Yeah, Bink, if you can work with Mark to have that, because that would also allow us to look at our cost data to make sure we are reporting our cost data correctly. We noticed this last time
Yeah.
that some aircraft weren't being, the costs weren't being used.
Yeah, I'm hearing you, Dan. I'm hearing what you're saying is that at the time it comes out, it's just too late.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah, no, we can do that, and we can tell you how that sort of cost figure relates to a revenue figure way ahead of time. But again, it's going to have to be unofficial, and we're not going to publish it. We're just going to do this over email, just because of the statutory language that's in place. But it'll give you guys a big lead time to talk to us and be like, hey, I don't think that's right. I mean, I've had Linden and Northern Air Cargo talk to me a lot about it ahead of time and be like, hey, I know, and like we said, I understand that accounting systems don't necessarily match up with reporting systems, and that's the big disconnect. Grant, you guys are a little more advanced, but like, we're happy to put this stuff out early as long as we all understand that it's unofficial,
Right.
Big, this is Rob. One of the things that was noted in the order was that there was basically we were paid too much in the prior order, and part of this was correcting that. And I think it's good for the audience to know that part of this reduced rate was overcoming the error in the prior order.
I'm sorry, say that one more time, Rob. The maid, the cleaning service is running the vacuum.
I can tell the group afterwards, it's really not addressed to you as much as it is to the group, but it's just that The prior order had some, overpayment issues in the calculations. And part of the decrease in this order was correcting that error from the prior order.
Okay. Do you mean the prior order that was sort of rescinded or last year's?
The prior year, the one that actually took effect.
All right, I'm gonna have to check with Mark on that. 'Cause-
He actually says it in this past order.
Okay,
If you read the fine print, he actually says that in there.
okay. All right, well, I've heard a lot from my grand folks and Hank and Bering and uh, do I have any Everts or Northern Air Cargo folks on the phone?
Okay, guys, I think we're gonna wrap this up here. Do you have any last comments?
Thanks for staying up so late to talk to us.
Yeah, no problem. All right,
Appreciate it.
take it easy.
Yeah, thanks so much. Appreciate it.